Good morning. How is everyone this morning?
Good morning.
Katie, how are you?
I am doing well. I have my coffee. I am ready to talk about Parler.
I know. So somebody was asking me, I guess it was one of my kids that said, what does parlor mean? I'm like, your living room where you have like a little parlor, but spelled wrong. So that's parlor.
Exactly. Yeah.
So driving all of us that are in and into editing and so forth crazy, parlor spelled with an E. Um, So, good morning. Let us know you're here on the right hand side. We can see everything you're talking about. So, just leave us a message in the comments. And no matter where you're watching this, so all of you are watching across the interwebs. We have people here from LinkedIn, we have people here from Facebook, we have people here from Twitter, we have Periscope, we have people here from YouTube. So, let me know where you are, where you're watching from. We can see all of your comments here, so please do, and questions. Hey, Rebecca.
Good
Rebecca Senior.
morning.
Good morning. I would love to say good morning to everyone. Awesome. Good morning, Mom. That's my mother. Hi.
Hi.
Good. Good. So, Parler is a social media network. It was put together by a guy named John Matza and Jared Thompson. They're programmers out of Nevada. So it is people in the United States, which is interesting in and of itself. So it's under the laws of the United States, as many of the other networks are as well. So they also are. They've been. They. It's not new. First of all, they've been alive since last 2 years ago, actually
August
2018.
2018. Yeah, it's been a
August
while.
2018. It's been a while. And if you know anything about startups and about social media, it is critical that you have lots and lots of people sign up for it in order to make it work. So that's part of the way that it works. And almost any small startup of a software that makes people come in and join it, they're going to do pretty much anything they can do to get signups for that service, because that's really the
That's the make
metric.
or break of success.
Yep.
So,
Hey Jay is coming from Facebook. Janine is coming from Facebook as well. We have a big Facebook
great.
crowd today.
Yeah. Welcome, guys. Glad you're
Oh yeah.
tuning in.
She heard about it from Mary Deming Barber. And Mary can't be here because it's like she's on the West Coast. So, like, it's really early in the
Yeah.
morning there. So, she'll probably watch this and replay, she told me. So, Mary's a good friend of mine. Anyway, really interesting, because I saw that the New York Times say that 4.5 million people have joined Parler in the last week. And there's a reason for that. Why don't you talk about that, Katie, a little bit?
Sure, sure. So we've seen that, post the election information coming out that people have been seeking what they call a free speech platform. And so I've seen a lot of right, right thinking people,
Sure.
Republican typically, seeking a place where they feel that they can get their voice heard without being censored. There's a concern with Facebook and Twitter and the other platforms censoring them. And so they are jumping to Parler and kind of switching and giving up Facebook in order to seek that community.
Yeah. And so I'm going to actually share my screen right now so you guys can see what Parler looks like. We're going to jump into a lot of the thoughts around it and the reasoning. We're going to stay away from politics as much as possible. However, it bears to be said, like Katie said, that it is started by a couple of conservative guys that wanted a free speech platform, and it's been joined by a ton of very conservative voices. And so they're coming to their, this is a conservative network at the moment,
Yeah.
but the actual platform itself could be used by anybody. It could be used by
Yeah.
anybody for any reason.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we can't really completely avoid the political perspective because that's what the news element is right now. That's why people were talking about it, is because there's so
Mhm.
many people joining with that conservative, you know, community being there. But we are trying to look at it from an educational standpoint to talk about why it's happening, what it is, that kind of thing, as well as from a marketing perspective, what marketers are supposed to do. With a new platform that comes in, is your brand, do they need to go jump there? Do they need to be posting? And that kind of thing. So we're going to
Yeah,
try and address
yeah,
all those
absolutely. And
questions.
we had a lot of people ask us about this, like really pointedly. Like so many people ask me,
Mhm.
"What is Parlor? Should I be there? Should I not be there?" Is it scary? Is it safe? There's just a bunch of things that they've asked. So, since this is my job, I've jumped in there. So I'm looking at it. I joined, and I started, and I'm going to share my screen now so you can see what that looks like. So when you get into Parlor, this is on my desktop, and I'm going to make it all the way big because it's so small. You're going to see that they give you a bunch of people that you can follow. I only followed a couple of them just so there'd be some content in here. If you follow no one, there will be no content. They do recommend people for you to follow, and they're all pretty much very well known names that you've probably heard, like Sean Hannity and um, Ted Cruz was on here too, and I'm in Texas, so these are who they gave. So these are very, very obviously conservative voices, and so I would recommend, honestly, if you decide to join, that you be very judicious and not just join getting all of the names that they give you, because following them is very easy. Like, it's a touch of a button. But unfollowing them, you have to go through and actually unfollow them all the way here on the right. So I would just, if you want to see it, that's fine. There's you'll see Tucker Carlson's, and you'll just see a lot of conservative voices. You'll see they're here. Okay, so that being said, let me just kind of show you what else is in here. You do, they do just kind of like Facebook do what's new, what's happening. They're trying to get you to type here, and you can type in here. Grammarly wants to help us out. It's okay. Thank you, Grammarly. So what's new? I can say here. Hello Parler. Let me just do that. I haven't even posted on Parler yet, guys, because I'm not sure this is for me, but I'm going to explain in a minute some of the reasons why we think that you should do this or shouldn't do this.
Cami, Jennifer and Andy are saying that your voice is extra low and they hear an echo. So I'm not quite sure. We've had some mic issues. Sorry, guys. Hopefully we can get it fixed. Sometimes when we're showing screens, it gets worse. So
yeah, let me come here. Why don't you talk for a minute? Well, I do that.
Sure.
There's a couple.
I also joined Parler just for this talk, just to kind of see what it was about. And I think that it's important to say that, like, this is, we're not really discussing the platform itself. The platform is kind of like all the others. You post content, you can have hashtags, you can post pictures, videos, that kind of thing. The platform itself looks really nice, and it looks solid and stable. I did notice that it was a little bit difficult to sign up. Like, they have, you have to put in your phone number, which is interesting. I also used my Google Voice number, and they didn't let me do that. They said that it was untextable. So I was like, okay, because I can receive text there, so I don't know. And so I had to put my real phone number in, which was interesting. From a security standpoint, I don't normally do that. And then every time you log in, it seems you have to put in like a CAPTCHA kind of code, which is interesting as well, because, I don't have to do that with any other platform. But maybe it's, from a security standpoint, that's better. Not quite sure.
Yeah. But is that better, guys? And let me know. Andy says he thinks. So I'm going to hold the mic. I think it might be the microphone, Katie, in the end. Who knows?
To me, you actually sound further away, so I'm not sure.
Great. Anyway, I am not. I've had issues with this mic and some stuff. If you guys can't hear me, now they say it's worse.
Yeah. I might just put in. Oh. Did we lose you? Okay, so while we're figuring out that, Cameron, we can't hear you at all now. Andy says, I've been delaying investigating this. Thanks for the session. No problem. How is the search functionality as far as seeing how a brand or individual is being discussed? I actually haven't tried that yet. I think that the answer for a lot of these questions, although we definitely want you to submit them, is that we're kind of going to wait and see how things go, because it's not really new, but it's still so fresh in, being popular, that it's hard to tell like what the perks are and what the good things and bad things are. So I would say as far as search, probably right now it's not great because there's, things are just getting started. And we're trying to investigate, if brands, should be on the platform and what that looks like from a brand perspective as well. So that should be coming soon in the next couple of weeks as we continue to investigate. So let's see, Cami, do we have you back? Nope, you're muted. It says you're muted here in StreamYard. So
you should be unmuted now.
There we go. There we go. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I think I'm going to have to buy a new microphone, sadly. I think that might be my problem. So we changed computers because I thought it may be the computer, but I think it was the microphone, Katie. So
Darn.
let me just kind of finish going through these pieces for you. So you can post on Parler here. You can click on it if it's sensitive content. That's interesting to me. So like they allow you to mark it as sensitive yourself, which is interesting. You have 991 characters per post, and you can either do a GIF. They've got GIFs here. So if you connect with your GIFs, it's going to be there. And then, so you can do Giphy and search like that, and so on.
And photos. 991, that's kind of an interesting amount of characters, but.
Right. And of course, like anything else, you can put in a.
Oh, it's probably 1,000 because you already had High Parler in there. Never mind.
Right, I do. It's 1,000. So you can do that. And you can get a photo, or I don't know if you can put a video in here. I haven't tried. Anyway, the point is that it's very similar to what you're used to in other networks, is that you can post here and go forward. And then on the side, they use hashtags. Hashtags are a big deal for them. And I've done, if you want to search on here right now in Parler, I have done some searches with hashtags just to see what people are writing about specific hashtags. So as far as searches, that's how I would recommend doing your searches, is with hashtags, just to see what's going on there. One of the things that we are, that we might recommend to you is if you have a brand, almost on any social network, it's wise to reserve your brand name for a couple of reasons. Number one, if that network ever goes anywhere, you're going to end up probably wanting to have it. Somebody might steal it from you. That's number one. And number two, you also don't want people to take your brand name and use it against you, if that makes any sense. So I think there's a very good reason to do that. Now, whether Parler itself succeeds or continues on is a very open question, because usually with new networks, and those of us have been around a long time know, we've seen them come and we've seen them go. And there's usually they're a media darling for a minute and then they're gone. And with this current environment, with the election being contested and all of this stuff going on, they think they're getting a lot of growth from that. So you might be fine just letting it be. So you got to kind of weigh your stuff. So like if you're a very if you're on the other side of the aisle on this particular issue, it may not be great for you to be there, because people will probably attack you and some other things could happen inside of that. But I am concerned about brands, especially not having their names and their names being taken at some point. That always bothers me and concerns me with social media networks when they're new.
Yeah, because you don't want to be, mocked or and impersonated in a sense, because you didn't reserve your name yourself. So I think that's always a good move. Even if you are completely against Parler and you don't believe in what it stands for, it's still really important to go and make the account and at least reserve your usernames. And then just stash those logins away, because you just never know what's going to happen in the future with, the way that the platform morphs and adopts and evolves over time. And so, you definitely just want to make sure you have that just in case.
Yeah. And so part of what they talk about too, and I actually went through a lot of their, when I was signing up, I made sure I went through all of their privacy policies and their rules. And they talk about being a free speech network, and they are, but they do have some rules. They say they don't want to have anything that incites violence, that commits a crime, or that is spam. But they also reserve the right honestly to remove anything anyway.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
in
kind of
there.
interesting. It's kind of interesting to me that they are there and saying that they're a free speech network, but that's not really what their rules say. So you might want to look at that too and be real clear about that it's not necessarily what they're saying. And the other thing is that a lot of these networks sometimes get taken over. So one of the funny things I think about very idealistic networks when they're launched, just like honestly, I mean, I was around when Twitter launched. I was around when Facebook launched. They were just as idealistic as
Right.
Parler is right this minute. They were so idealistic about what they were going to accept and what they weren't going to accept and how they were going to do it. And there is a pressure test that happens for these social networks as they go forward. So as you all know, both Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google, they've all been at Congress at being in hearings, being asked very point blank why they allow certain kinds of content on their platforms. And there's been a lot of media coverage across all the media complaining about this coverage, or complaining about the coverage has been complaining about the fact that these networks don't, limit speech.
Right.
And the
I think
reason they
it's
don't limit speech,
interesting. It seems like it's frustrating, I think, from a journalistic standpoint. I used to be a journalism teacher. And so it feels like people are, in a sense, complaining when it's convenient. And so they're complaining when Facebook doesn't take something down that is, XYZ, against their belief and their worldview. But then they also don't want to be censored. And it's like, you really can't have it both ways. And so it's a difficult position for Facebook and these other platforms to be in, because it's uncharted territory. I mean, this is a new thing. Social media hasn't existed forever. And when the First Amendment was written, they didn't anticipate social media. And so over the course of time, there has been several court cases that have clarified what free speech is and what it isn't. And there's several things that are not protected. And I think that this is going to be another one of those instances where the Supreme Court is going to have to step in and legislate, what is allowed and what isn't from these social platforms, and what a platform is versus a publisher, and who's responsible for what, because, this hasn't been done before. And so as a society, we have to determine, what direction do we go in?
And, Section 230 of the Communications and Decency Act is part of the debate right now. And what that is, it's a section of the thing that says that networks, social media networks, cannot be held liable for what people post on them. I mean, that's the basic gist of it. There's a lot more to it than that. And both President Trump and President-elect Biden have both said that they want to get rid of the Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, because they found that networks have to be responsible for the stuff that's spreading for two reasons. Number one, it undermines democracy when outside players come in and, throw in disinformation and try to, change elections, which was a big, thing that happened in the last election. So we've kind of been fighting with this, honestly, for about 4 years since the last election. Yeah. And I think things have just come to a head. So Parler, it's, while very idealistic and sitting there, if they do get rid of the Communications Decency Act, they too will have to police their speech. So it's very interesting. I don't know, how that's going to play out for all of us as American. And I don't know what's good or bad. I mean, we just don't know. It's like these things have unintended consequences sometimes, whenever you get rid of or put something in, there's unintended consequences that happen as a result. What do you think, Katie?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, I think there's been instances throughout the course of history where the Supreme Court has had to make clarifying judgments on what is free speech and what isn't. And it gets to be tough, and I think I should say that I think legislation is coming regarding like free speech on social media platforms, but I'm typically a person that's like pro less legislation. Like, I don't think we need the government to step in every element of our lives, but I do think this is one of those areas. And so I just think it's difficult because, there's such a gray area with satirical content and opinion versus Is something truthful or not? And then the platforms are doing this with an algorithm. And so they're not looking at each individual post and determining, some guy behind a desk, this is untrue, I'm going to censor it or put a fact check banner on it. It's an algorithm based on language and link tracking and stuff like that. And so it's not a perfect system. And it's new. So of course it's going to have its kinks. And I think that it's getting a lot of, bad press because there's been some instances that were censored or got fact checked when they maybe shouldn't have and that kind of thing. But I think that's part of the growing pains of putting together a system that protects, your users, but at the same time doesn't censor them.
Yeah.
So, I think we can all agree that like cyberbullying is something that should be censored or stopped.
Or like people being doxxed, which is where they take your address and your phone number, they put it out there, or people getting threats for their lives, about getting their heads cut off or whatever. So I do think all of us could agree that that's not good. And you're right too, Katie, that they are also using that. So let's go. She had, Janine asked a question, which I think is really important. So I think we should come back to the marketing implications. I think we've covered the law a little bit, so you guys understand what the background is for this. So coming back to the marketing implications for this, do we have instructions on how to reserve your brand name? She just signed up. Hold on, let me put this in here. I just signed up personally, but wondering if you have more info on how to do this. Sure. So I'm not going to tell you I have all the answers, but I know that you can actually sign up. Let me just really quickly see, because I believe there were several of them that have. So I'm going to see if I can find that in the meanwhile. But my understanding, and I haven't done it myself, so I haven't actually grabbed but you can, if you look for Fox News and other things on there, you'll see they have profiles. Or people do.
Something
Fox
I can speak on while you look at this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, are you going to share your screen?
I will, but just talk.
Okay. I was just going to say that I was doing some research about it because that was a question that we got asked the other day is what, do brands need to jump onto this platform? And I thought it was interesting because the Parler homepage does speak on brands, and clearly there are brands on the network, but there isn't documentation from Parler about how to do that, where to go, a link to create a profile. And so that's interesting to me because is it invite only or is it, how do you do it? And it's not as easy as it is with other platforms. And that's probably also because it's new. So, that you're not alone in feeling confused because it isn't just straightforward like it is with others.
Well, and I know this is really small, so I'm going to make it as big as I can, but you'll see that they they have something in here called Fox Newsroom. So I think there's only one type of profile. So it's not like Facebook. Boy, it took us forever to train people, because when Facebook first started, it did not have brand pages. You just had a profile. Right. So it's the same here. So what they have done, they probably made their first name Fox and their last name Newsroom.
Yeah, like really Twitter. Honest. Twitter's the same way.
Yeah, Twitter's the same way. So I think this is a little more like Twitter in that way. And it's sort of also interesting, and I'll come back and show you some of the other features it has. But Fox Newsroom, let's go there. I don't know if I guess I can just follow it, and then I don't know if I can hit it and get in there. Here it is. They joined 2 days ago. So I'm telling you guys, this is like so new. It's not even funny. They have 3 parlays, and parlays are your posts. They call them parlays. And you can vote them up. So you'll see here, you've got a vote, and you can vote up these parlays, and more people that are following will see them. So that's one of their algorithm things, is that you'll see the things that other people upvote the most. You can also echo it, meaning kind of share it. That's how you share it, right? It'll go onto your page, like, and you can leave a comment, just like you've seen it before. This right here allows you to open it up wider, and then over here you can share to other networks and other places, or to your own things, I think. Well, let me just see if there's other places on there. So this is the share button. Boy,
it just copies the link.
Yeah, it probably does. I'm trying to figure out what it does too. Yeah, post link, copy to clipboard. And then you can take it anywhere you want and share it yourself. So they're not connected to any other networks or any other places. It just is that's how it works. So that's how they do it. And you can see that you've had 2.3K views of this one thing over the last day. So it gives you a few very minor, so there's no background analytics. It's very basic, guys. I mean, we're still in early days, but they do have a little analytics on it and so forth on that side. And the parlays are there
And
too.
I do think it's interesting, like we were talking about from a brand perspective, is let's study, why are people looking to switch? Are they wanting that ability to upvote? Are they wanting that transparency? Or, and so as a brand, you can kind of speak to that because you can answer those needs that they want. Even if you're not on Parler, you can speak to that, in other platforms in a sense. So, it's interesting to not have any analytics or anything, though, because I'm so used to seeing so much more data.
You see them. It's sort of like how you see them in LinkedIn. You see like how many people looked at it, and like it's very LinkedIn-esque in this way. Some people have described this as sort of Twitter meets Reddit because the upvoting is sort of a Reddit feature. And Reddit is if you don't know, is a bulletin board of basically links and information on the internet, and people upvote it, and then they have little communities. This also, I don't see any community aspect to it, except for that basically right now everybody on it is that way. They do have an influence network. I'm not really sure how you get involved with this influence network, but I did notice it, and it says it's unavailable at the time. So they're thinking about putting together some kind of influence network. You can do a verification, which I decided not to do because you basically have to give them the front and back photo of your driver's license. That's how you do it. Yeah, that's how you get verified. Sorry. So you do the front of your identification, the back of your identification, and you have to take a selfie.
That's interesting.
So that I guess you can prove that these things all match. And when you go to the selfie step, I believe it actually makes you take a selfie right from your computer. I don't think they let you upload it. So you can be verified in Parler. Anybody can be verified.
And the verified people are called citizens.
Yes, they are. They're called citizens. Good job. Yeah. And they do have settings in privacy here, which is interesting. So they're pretty basic, to be honest. You can turn on this slider to make your account private. So that could be a smaller community. So like if everybody turned themselves to private and only followed each other, then you would only see the people in that little tiny community. You can get email notifications, which gratefully, by the way, all of these are like slid on. You will not receive updates. So they have that. You don't get email updates without turning this on. And then you can also disable private messaging if you want to. So there is private messaging in this as well. And where is that? Let me go back to that. Let's see what they say. I guess that at least keeps the Russian bots from posting, but kind of scary to give away privacy. Yeah. So I agree with that, Teresa. I do agree with that. And I think it is good that they're trying to keep the Russian bots and those kinds of things out. I mean, listen, guys, there's a plus and minus to all of this. You've got to look at like all the different pieces of it and figure out. One of the things that is true is that if these are your people, then you need to be there, right? So that's the other part.
Like, Fox News, they're traditionally a very conservative news network, and so it makes sense for them to be there. So I think that's a good question is, do I need to jump? And the answer is, well, as with any platform, is your ideal community member there? And if so, then maybe so. But then you also have to weigh the other option is, would there be negative connotations from you being there because of the community that's there? And that's up, as the business owner for you to decide, or as the brand, sometimes it's personal brands. And then like with that, I would say like, don't feel like you have to jump to every new platform that comes out, because there's going to be more. There's going to be lots more probably. And so we always tell, our students in Smart Social Secrets or our clients, like, stay focused. Like if you are rocking Facebook right now, like don't feel like you have to jump because there's something new and shiny. It's better to stay focused on your content and just keep going with what's working than have to worry about a whole new strategy for something new.
Yeah, and so there's a question here about the privacy policy from Elizabeth. That's a very good question. So I pulled up the privacy policy. Let's look at it, shall we? So here's the privacy policy right here. They have it right here in the bottom legal side. So it's everything, by the way, is very clean and easy. I like their UX.
The interface,
It's very
yeah.
easy. Their interface is very great. It's easy to find stuff. So it's talking about information they collect. You were asking about that. Here it is right here. So they're going to collect your registration and profile information, obviously, influencer network information if you join their influencer network, which is something they will be starting soon. And they say they will be using payments for that. So you see that there's going to be some payments in there. I guess eventually you'd give them your social security number, your tax ID number, and so forth. Then user content, obviously they're going to have access to that, payment information, communications. And then if you keep going down, which I can do it, they have cookies, they have contacts. This is all very, very similar to most other networks. They're going to basically take anything you put on the site, right? That's what they're going to do. Here's how they use it. We may use the information to collect, maintain, and improve our service, personalize your experience, analyze how you use the services, communicate with you, providing updates and so on, for marketing and advertising purposes. And they don't have an advertising thing yet, but I'm assuming that's coming. I'd guess that's coming. To send you text messages and push notifications. So they do have your phone number, so they can now text you. That's what it says here, right? And right now they're probably just sending you those. They probably have that in there because every time you sign in, they push a sign up for you. Like you have to have another little code number, like Katie said, to facilitate transactions and so forth, to verify your identity for compliance purposes, including enforcing our user agreement, our other legal rights. And here it goes. Or as may be required by applicable laws and regulations or requested by any judicial process or government agency. So they will give, I mean, all of the networks say this, so it's nothing crazy. So it's normal. It's not different is what I'm trying to say. For other purposes, which we provide specific notice and the time the information is collected. So they're going to be holding it. And then they share it with vendors and service providers. So they will do that. They will share user content. What are we going here? I'm sorry. Basically you have some choices on what will be shared. They describe the actual settings and control you can use to limit the sharing of certain information. We are not responsible for other users of available information, so you should carefully consider whether and what to post and how you identify yourself on our service. Basically, they're saying they give you no they give you no confidence that they aren't going to share it with other people. They're going to do what they need to do. They do say they don't market or rent the information about you with non-affiliated third parties. In theory, Facebook does that too. I mean, obviously they've had some court cases around that because they were loose in that area. But generally speaking, they don't share it with people, but they will advertise to them, right, for you, on behalf of them. And then analytics. They will use third-party analytics services to collect and process applications, data, and so on. So there you go. I'm telling you, they have a very clear idea about that, your sharing preferences and other things. It's a very long thing. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But let me go to the community guidelines, because I think that's also interesting.
I think it's interesting how they have Word docs embedded as part of their guidelines instead of like the actual text. That's really interesting. I wonder if there's a reason for that.
So Teresa's asking if you can block people. I don't think you can at this point, but
yeah,
I don't. Katie and I probably should have done a little bit of back and forth and seeing if we could block you, seeing if that showed up as an option, because I was kind of wondering that too, and I'm not sure. So, but yeah, this is nascent.
Oh, sorry, Janine, I was just going to say, yes, you do. You can change your username like you can on Facebook. It's really easy. It's just in your profile settings. So you can definitely reserve, like sign up under your name and then put it as your brand name for the like little handle. That's really easy to do.
So after we look at the community guidelines, we'll jump over to the profile settings. That's a good point. So our guidelines govern your relationship with Parler. So they have very specific ones. And our goal is to provide all community members with a welcoming, nonpartisan public square. That's interesting, right? While the First Amendment does not apply to private companies such as Parler, our mission is to create a social platform in the spirit of the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. We prefer that removing community members or member-provided content be kept to the absolute minimum. We prefer to leave decisions about what is seen and who is heard to each individual. So that tells me you can probably block people. I know you can turn them off. I think you can do that, actually. In no case will Parler decide what content will be removed or filtered, or which account will be removed on the basis of opinion expressed within the content at issue. So they're trying to say that Parler's policies are to use a well-known concept in First Amendment law, viewpoint neutral. So that's sort of the thing that actually Wikipedia tries to be. That's something they talk about a lot, is neutral viewpoint. We do not curate your feed. We do not pretend to be qualified to do so. We believe you are qualified to curate your feed, and so we give you the tools you need to do it yourself. To that end, Parler offers a number of features. Here we go, including the ability to mute or block other members, or to mute or block all comments containing terms of the member's choice. So you can do that. And it sounds like you can also add filters based on the words. So that's good.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And we encourage you to use these tools whenever the content you would rather not encounter here, but is not otherwise addressed by what follows. So they are going to allow each individual to do their own muting and stuff. So there you go. At Parler, we're committed to the continuous improvement toward fulfilling our mission. According to these guidelines, are subject to modification and so on. But they are going to be subject to modification unilaterally by Parler at any time. So what that means, guys, is this is their space, right? This is their space. They're going to do what they need to do with it. So there you go.
I think that's a really important point, is that and that I posted about it on Facebook a couple days ago, but I think that when you're deciding if you want, personally, maybe not from a branding perspective, but if you're wanting to switch over, why are you looking to do that? And if it's because you don't want to be censored, just know that you don't own the content on any social media platform at all. These are private companies that make these rules and can change them at any time, and they do. And so, I think it goes to say that if you're a brand or even a person that, you really want the space to say whatever you want, you need your own website. And that's not just to push websites, but just know that anything you post on social media anywhere, you do not own. So I think that there's a misconception there that if they wrote it, then they own it. But in reality, you're on their platform still. So.
Yeah. And they're going to have to do what they have to do too if they get any legal kind of things are put on them, and they will probably at some point. So sometimes the law requires us to exclude content from our platform once it's reported to our community jury. So they have a jury. So they've put together a group of people. I don't know who their jury is. So another thing to look into. Obvious examples: content posted by or on behalf of terrorist organizations, child pornography, and copyright violations. So they're trying to do that just like all the other networks. I'm going to tell you, though, I'm worried about them when they get pressure tested. This is the thing I'm sure they haven't had yet. This will be interesting. Other times, even though the law may not require us to flag or remove reported content or ban member, we may nonetheless do so. So they might ban a member in order to prevent our services from being used by someone in the commission of a crime or civil tort, especially when these interfere with our mission of providing a welcoming, nonpartisan public square. Examples include criminal solicitation, fraud, and nuisance. So they're trying to be nonpartisan, they say, which might be really hard because basically right now the rush to their service is a partisan rush. So we'll see what happens. Posting spam and using bots are not conducive to productive and pilot discourse. So they don't want bots. Who does? So there you go. And you can use the mute and block features by individual users as not, and not when, and so forth. So they feel like the use of the mute and block features are often adequate to address problems with spam or people that they don't really want to hear from. That's their thoughts. So there you go. That's the whole thing pretty much. You can come back and look at this yourself, but that gives you the gist. Let me go to the edit profile section. So there you go. This is how this works. So the way they work, this is they have your name, they have your display name, and you describe yourself. So you can have a big cover photo, which I haven't done yet. You can put your profile photo in, which I also haven't done yet. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to be hanging out in this network, honestly. I definitely wanted Cami chat because I don't want somebody else to get it. I can describe myself here. I can put in my profile. And so I think this is the way you would do it for your business too. And you could actually put the cover profile as, your logo could be your profile photo, and you could have your normal cover photo that you would have on any other network on top there. And they give you the sizes. I like that they do that, Katie. They give you the sizes real big. They are not hiding any of that. This is a very nice interface, honestly.
It is user-friendly. It's not hard to find anything, which I think is refreshing, which I think is something, again, like from a marketing perspective, take notes on. Like users are wanting these features or wanting these types of things. And so, how can we emulate that? Also, the display name right there where you were is where you change your @ handle. And so like your URL changes with that display name. So that's where you'd put in like your business one or whatever. And then your name is just like your
real name, and then or not your real name, whatever you want. So they don't make you prove who you are unless you want to get verified.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting.
So I'm going to pull up what Brian said because I think it's interesting. Because I think so Brian, like us, he works with brands. So if someone wasn't willing to moderate and manage their own news feeds, why would they all of a sudden be up for it on Parler? If you're a brand, you then also have to guide your followers on how to get the best out of Parler. And that's a lot of work. And I agree. It's completely a lot of work. And that's why I'm not sure it's the best place for a brand right now. But I do think brands might want to consider, you think about your brand, who you are. Is it likely that somebody might hijack your brand in this context? So, I worry about people that are on the far left as much as I worry about people on the far right, because for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a warfare, right? So I can see somebody taking somebody's username and using it against them. Even somebody's personal name could be used against them, because I could go and pretty much take anybody's name that I want to right now.
Yeah. And so definitely go and take your username. But I think that it's not ready for brands yet. I think that's something we need to keep an eye on and monitor and, keep tabs with what's going on in the news and stuff about it. But I don't think that a brand necessarily should feel like they have to be on it unless they're very, very aligned with the audience that's there. But again, it's a whole nother platform to have to worry about. So I think it's too early still. Like I really do. And so our goal here today was just to kind of introduce you to it and talk generally about why people are jumping and update you the fact that people are. And then we're going to keep everyone updated about things as they change and evolve. So.
Yeah, I hear you, Janine. I agree 100%. That's a problem. That's one of the bigger problems, I think, with all social networks, is that people have consistently done that, gone to new networks and taken really popular brand names away from people. So that's why I do sign up for them, because I'm careful with the Cami chat name, because that's something that people will take if I don't take it. It's happened at least once that I know of on Discord. I just found it the other day because I hadn't joined Discord, which is another really popular one right now that goes along with gaming and stuff like that. So
my husband's on Discord 24 hours a day.
Huh?
My husband's on Discord 24 hours a day.
Right. Exactly. So, it depends on who you are. There's a lot of interesting things going on right now, and so many new different platforms popping up. that it's going to be an interesting time for us to think about what our criteria are for networks that we join. So that might be an interesting one to think about too. For me, it's all about, number one, brand protection. That would be the first thing I would think about, especially for bigger brands. Of course, if you're a big brand like a Nike or something like that, when you join a network, it legitimizes it. So you have to be careful. If you're like a super big brand, then you also have to be careful about doing it for that reason. And if you're a super big brand, usually you can go to the owners of the network and say, I'm going to take my name back. And they will give it to you.
Yeah.
They will give it to you, but they will not give Cami Chat her name on Discord, no matter how I try to get it, right?
You need to trademark it, then you can do it.
Exactly. So if you have a trademark name, you have like standing to take it to court and pretty much guaranteed to get it out of the most of them, especially if they're US based and they're doing all of that. So I feel like that's the deal, but that is what it looks like. That's what it looks like behind the scenes. For those of you who literally do not want to go back there yourself, you don't have to. I've like gone into the unknown for you. You can also get badges on Parler. They have a lot of little gaming things that they're pulling in. You can't. It says I can show you real quick what it looks like for me right now, since I'm a newbie on the platform as well. It doesn't have anything. It just says default badge. You don't have any badges to choose from. So I don't know if that's going to be something that they're going to give to people that are in their influence network, so they can give badges to their followers. It sounds like they're thinking through a lot of that kind of stuff. You can change your theme if you want to. That's kind of interesting. You can change your language, so you can choose your color. So I think I chose purple, but yeah, you can see up at the top. And if I chose red, it would change this at the top. So you can make that top bar any color you want it to be.
They also have dark mode and light mode, because yours is, I guess, in dark mode and mine is not. So that's interesting, because I don't remember choosing that, but.
Yeah, I don't see that here, but they probably do.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point I'm making is that they've got some interesting things here for you. You can choose from a bunch of different languages. And I actually have already seen some Arabic in here, believe it or not. Just a minute ago I saw. So
yeah,
people are using it from other countries. That's interesting. And then they have their suggested sidebars. So they're always going to be suggesting you new members to follow. It's a little bit like Twitter was at first, and is still to a certain degree. It says these are the people that you should follow. They're going to be there. So that is it. I see subscriptions on the side. So I do know that they are going to have a subscription model so that people can subscribe to your channel and get certain content. That was another thing I heard that they were going to be doing. This is taking forever to load, but there you go. Yeah. I have found it really buggy to get into the app on the phone. So that's been, and a lot of people saying getting into the app is buggy because it does have that 3-step process. You come in, you put in your password, then it sends you two-part authentication is there. And then on my phone, every time I try to add in that third step or that second step, it tells me that it's timing out or something like that. So it's not letting me in there from there. And I think it's just numbers of people that are joining the network right now. And so
yeah, I was going to say it's probably like the scale, like they didn't it's hard to anticipate, like growth at this speed. So it's probably just their infrastructure wasn't ready, maybe. So
yeah, it was a lot. Of 4.5 million people in 1 week is a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
The CAPTCHA doesn't work on my phone ever. Me either, Teresa. I can't make it work on my phone. The CAPTCHA is not working on my phone either. So I guess it's a widespread problem.
Yeah, but try it from your computer and see. That might be if you are interested in trying it out and investigating in the back end. So.
All right. So I think that's it. I mean, is there anything else from your list you want to make sure you cover? And we have a very long list. We didn't
We
cover
do. We
every
have a
single
lot of
thing.
topics. Well, because this issue, I think, is so multifaceted. It's not just a new platform. It's not just, a phenomenon post-election. I think that it also speaks to what censorship is and what the role of it is in our society, and when is it okay, when is it not okay. And so I think that, like, ultimately, although the platforms, I think, do have some responsibility, it depends on us as users to be sure that we're sharing information that is, like, when I was a teacher, I used to tell my students, like, think before you speak. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it kind? I missed one. And is it, what's the end? Necessary. And
Necessary.
yeah, I think that's really important. Like, I think that it's not just for little kids and think before you speak, it's think before you post. And I think that obviously there's a gray area with, is it true? Because then you get satire and you get opinion and you get things, people think something's true and it's not. But this whole thing started because of the rapid sharing of false information. And that's because they're not media literate and they don't take the time to verify if something's true, and they immediately share it because it aligns with their worldview. And so I think that there's a real lack of understanding and like ability to discern if something's true or not before you share it. And I think that's on us. That's not on the platform. That's on the users, and that's going to happen on Parler or on Facebook or on Twitter or anywhere.
So let's say, is it true? Is it kind?
Helpful. Well, it's think before you speak. It's true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, and kind.
Helpful, inspiring. I'm going to put that on here in a minute.
I love it. I use it for everything. Like, I think it's, we shouldn't ever speak if it doesn't qualify with those things. And then it goes with posting as well. There's a lot of times that I see something, I've been caught by it too, that like it's an innocent share. When Hurricane Harvey hit Houston a couple years ago, there was a picture of the school that I used to work at with a funnel cloud above it. And I freaked out and I was like, oh my gosh. And meanwhile, it was from a storm like 2 years prior. And people were at their house, like looking out their window at the school, like that's not true. And I shared it knowing better. And so sometimes it's not like malicious. You're excited, or you have an emotional response. And so I think it's just important to kind of take a minute and think through, okay, is this really true? Like, let me go check and corroborate it with other sources. Let me make sure before I share this, because then if you don't, and it isn't true, you're part of the problem. And you can't necessarily always just delete it and it goes away because you already shared it, So
and Twitter is doing something kind of interesting on that front right now too, because they are making you click through and look at the link before you're allowed to share it. So they know if you click through and if you haven't, they're like, no, you can't share this unless you've actually read it, because they're just trying to get people to think for just 1 second before they share something, to go check it out. And I think that's really, really a great feature from Twitter right now that I've really appreciated. The other thing I'm going to say
down retweets. I was going to say, if you're quote tweeting, it makes you go to the quote tweet and then you can retweet. So it gives you a second to think, like, do I want to comment on this? Before you just hit retweet. So I think that's interesting too. They're slowing you down intentionally.
Yeah, it's like putting a speed bump in, like in the neighborhood. Like, we hate them, but they do keep kids safe.
Right. So you can't be mad at it,
And people are. I've heard people, but I mean, I've even done it. I've like, gosh, this bump. But I think speed bumps are really a good idea because we need them in our culture to like slow the roll. I mean, we are like so quick to jump into our thoughts about something. And that's one other thing I do want to talk about is that this network or any network, having places where you only connect with like-minded people and you don't hear any other thoughts around things is really dangerous. It's so dangerous in our democracy right now. And that's one of the things all of the networks are having. They're struggling with it because they have these algorithms that show you things that you might like. So that necessarily filters out almost everything that is not in your mindset or your worldview. And I think that's part of the issue that they're struggling with right now so hard. So I don't think this new Parler doesn't solve that at all. In fact, but I do think that's one thing we all should keep in mind too, is like, how can we get out there and look at other news sources that we normally wouldn't read, even if it bothers us to read them, to go and read them just to see what other people are thinking, so that you can have a full picture of everything. And then you can make your own decisions. When you have all the information, you can make an informed decision, right? Without that, you can't. So I guess that's one of the things. That's why I joined Parler. That's why I'm open to these kinds of experiences, because no matter what, I feel like we have to have that open-mindedness about like all information, so that we can then see the forest for the trees. Like if you're just in the forest and you never zoom out and see the entire picture, you're going to make mistakes. We're all human. We're going to think something's true that isn't. It's just how it's going to be.
Yeah. And if you have a particular worldview and you surround yourself with people with other ones, it gives you the ability to discuss civilly and have compassion for the why they believe what they believe. And it can also further confirm your own worldview. You know, if you disagree and you're able to articulate why you disagree, that's okay. And I think that's part of the problem we have right now without being able to have civil discourse with each other, is because people get so emotional and they have to start fighting because they feel so passionate, which is understandable. But we've lost the ability to civilly discuss things and have compassion for the other side. And if you only surround yourself with like-minded people, you never have the opportunity to do that. And like, it's just going to cause further divide. And so I would encourage people that if you are, feeling prompted to go to Parler, what is that? Parler, like make sure you're also intentional with you're seeking outside of yourself, like you're not just only in this one space. If you want to be there, cool, but I think stay somewhere else too, not necessarily Facebook or Instagram or anywhere, just like be intentional with where you're spending your space. So you're making sure you're hearing all those worldviews. So
yeah, and you don't want to, like, I think the bashing is part of the problem too. Like we go immediately to bashing and platitudes, like everything is like this and everybody is like that. And
yeah, and
actually in my household, I've got 3 kids. We have a law against saying always. Every always is the big one. You always.
Yeah, anything that's in those extremes, it's never true. Like no one operates in absolutes all the time. So.
Correct. So that's our opinion about it. It's very interesting though to see how this is like happening. And what it does show is that people do feel like they're not being heard. So that's something that I think on both sides of this debate, it's been a tough couple of weeks, and I know all of you have your own thoughts, and out of all the people watching this, there are going to be a number of you I put it 50-50. We're probably 50-50 on either side of this aisle, which is interesting. So remember, like especially as social media managers and people that put material out there, remember that not everybody thinks the same way you do. Not everybody thinks the same way that you do, and you can't assume that they do.
And that's okay. It's not bad. It's not bad. Like that's okay.
It's okay. And we need to get to the point where we're okay with disagreeing on certain things, and get back to the point where we can disagree and still be friends.
Yeah.
It's trouble right now that we can't do that. So let's I think it's each individual's, each one of us have a responsibility to do that. Each one of us has a responsibility to stand in the center of that and say, no, I'm going to listen to other people's point of view. Sit down with a friend that thinks differently, and you actually listen to why they feel that way. They usually have come to that reasoning through personal experiences and stuff like that. So that's the empathy I think that you need especially as a social media community manager. You need tons of empathy to be really good at it. So that's it. That was my little preaching at the end, but that's my heartfelt thing. I would just really hope that all of us could come back together as Americans, or if you're not an American, you're here. Thank you for being here. But we're having a tough time the last couple of weeks. But we need to have an option to bring this down. So anyway, that being said, I think we're done.
Yeah. If you
All
guys have
right.
more questions, though, please pop them in the comments. We'll circle back and try and answer them as we explore this more, because we're going to keep doing it. And then also, I will say that we have a Facebook group. It's open. It says it's Smart Social Secrets Community, I think.
Yeah.
And we'll be posting updates in there. So,
And also, you just can follow this web page right here. This page right here also has some stuff on it too. So you can just make sure you follow Cammie's Smart Social Secrets. This page will have all the updates on it too. So,
yep.
All right, guys, take care.
All right, bye.
Bye. If I can end it. Always a hard part.